All right, thanks everyone. So, I mean, what I'm going to focus about is going to be a slightly different level of scope from what others have been talking about, which is more on the individual level, the student and the teacher, and the feedback for an individual assignment level. What we've been trying to think about, and this is a big conversation the school's having as well about program level thinking. And at LSE, everything we do is course level, so it's almost accidental when the final grade comes out of the program because everyone does so many optional courses. So what we're trying to do is think, how can we get the data in some way to A, be able to have mentors to see how students are doing across all kinds of courses, not just on a specific one, and B, how to do it in good time. So if you look at what all the predictions are about how AI can help on higher education, education generally, it's always the same things about holistic, personalised and early feedback. So as soon as it comes in, you can get this extra analysis that can deal with a lot of bulk qualitative data to get earlier insights, so students can improve as they go along. So I don't know how long most people have been here at LSE, but geography was the first department in 2008 to even send to send summative feedback to students at all. And it was revolutionary at the time. Before that, the school's position was summative feedback is not your business. It's our way to assess how good you are. So that's why you don't get feedback. Or you could pay £10 for a data protection request and get it that way. So yeah, but the problem is, for master's students especially, but also undergrad, you don't find out typically until the end of the year how you've done. Mentors have no idea whatsoever. So we have an annual process where I collate all the feedback, and we can do this because we structure everything in an easy way where we know candidate number, assessment, grade, and comments. We can do that, and we can collate it so that at the end of the year in September, the mentors can speak to their students and identify any areas where they've been struggling. Still a lot of text, but at least there's some way of doing it. But it's only summative work. Formative work is all over the place. We don't record it in a structured way. We can't know anything about outside courses either. So, the objective here is what I'm going to show is something that's already possible now. It's not even that difficult. It's just a matter of getting the data easily accessible. But what AI is terrible at is being correct about the world and things, anything to do like that. What it's really good at is language transformations. Anything to do with summarizing language, and even if it's not perfect, it's a lot better than nothing at all, which is what we've got to stick with otherwise. So this is the problem. So, there's a lot of autonomy in LSE, and that's great in one respect, but it means there's lots of different systems in every department. How people actually record feedback, at the end what matters to the school is the final grade, because that's what you need on the final mark sheets. But there's all this fantastically valuable data for the student, for the mentor, for the teachers as well, that could, in theory, be able to identify problems that students are having, where they're doing well, where they could do better, as they're going along in real time. Yeah, I'll put here, most mentors don't even see 5%. That might even be like the upper end. I really don't think most mentors have any clue, because what happens, class teachers have to put their comments on LFY at the end of the term. It's like 1-2 sentences maybe. That's if they do it. Some of them don't. And then you've got like formative grades, but then summative grades are in a different part altogether. It's a lot of effort. If we can build that all into one place, it can make things a lot easier. So one thing we've done here, and this is something we've done, this is just a nicer interface that we're able to do thanks to Power Apps being available, but essentially this is a really way for mentors to search for their students, and they can only see their own students. All the qualitative feedback and grades for all the summatives that they did in geography, we can get that data because we've got it in a structured way. This is like really easy to do. And this is something that's, it kicks off the start of the year meetings with the mentors. It sets off good practice to talk about, where they could improve. But it's still distant. Like a lot of students complain that I don't even remember what I did now at this point, so I don't know what this feedback relates to. But it's still, it's better than nothing. And what we decided to try this year was, there's an awful lot of text here on that feedback. And what I'm proposing is going to be a massive amount of text, because we're talking about formatives, outside courses, all put together, is getting AI to produce a summary. So basically, looping through all the students by candidate number, collecting all their feedback and grouping it in one, and asking AI to submit a summary. And here's the prompt that I used. So strengths and areas for improvement, and just putting that into a fairly concise summary. And it's not great. There's certain things that are, not particularly good here, but most of it's actually really good. And you can see things that, beyond key readings, that's a positive, but there was one here I saw. Avoid introducing new information in conclusions. The sort of thing that, the mentor would never see. And actually, this could be really useful for the students as well, to get this more kind of holistic view. We will definitely put this warning at the top saying this is an AI summary, so take it with a pinch of salt. But at a glance, before a meeting, this is a good way to catch up with how the student's doing. What I'm suggesting, though, is going further and having this as a real-time system, which is absolutely possible. So, a lot of people have been talking today about using annotations and feedback. So I'm a huge fan of this. I think this is how it should be, because it's contextualized and the student sees it. But the problem is, as someone mentioned, people talking about on GradeScope, is that if you try to export the comments, they've lost the context because they're not linked to the original comment. So I'm talking about Microsoft Word here. As much as I despise Microsoft Word with a passion, but you can automate it, right? There's a DBA, it's a programming language in Microsoft Office. You can do a lot of very cool stuff automating Word, Office, PowerPoint, Outlook, everything. And what you can do, and this is like actually really quite straightforward, in MS Word, so there's things that exist as entities that are identifiable in a predictable way. Comments are one of them. Comments have various properties. They have the text, they have the author, and they have the highlighted text. All of that can be extracted systematically, like in an instant. It's really, really easy. Same thing with like headings, with data in tables or whatever. If it's not just free text, you get hyperlinks as well. Anything that is clearly identifiable predictably from Word document you extract. So as boring as Word is, a lot of students use it. Very, very versatile for something like this. And we do encourage it for our formatives, so we're going to be piloting it this year using this. And then, so here's an example. What we need AI for here is because we don't want to make things difficult for markers and say you must add a grade in this particular format. AI, and this is so cheap, GPT-4o Mini is unbelievably cheap. Get it to extract here. So in this particular example on the right, grade 68 is just right at the bottom, just written out. At the top it's clearer with the delimiter grade 68. You need AI to interpret that and find out where it is. You can't predict every scenario where a grade might appear. But AI is clever enough that this is such a simple task for AI. You could have B+, you could have any kind of grade. It's like just identify anything that looks like a grade, and you're going to put it into this column. And so that's what the output would look like. So just like, well, all of those Word docs in there, and that might cost like 3p for like 100 students, because it's just such a small amount of text. And then suddenly, we have this data in a single cell, which can then feed into the student's continual record, something that we would never have. Nobody would know. The mentor wouldn't know. Teachers on other courses wouldn't know. And this is the kind of stuff that is useful to know to capture issues early on as they're progressing through studies, not after the fact. And here's so basically an example of what I think would be an ideal system, and it's absolutely doable, where you have this system where data is downloaded, fed into the student's record, and then you might have a section for strengths, weaknesses, recommendations, AI, summaries. But, and I want to go back to my first slide in here because I often get this. Anytime I talk about anything with AI, even though I must have said 100 times, I view generative AI as a well-read intern that often gets things wrong. It's not the sort of person who would be trusting to do important decision-making stuff, and yet people always assume, when I suggest this, that I'm talking about replacing staff judgment for anything. No, this is absolutely what I put in bold. Make it easier for mentors and teachers to support by identifying these patterns that are doable. So, like, I put here that this is something, this summary, an academic could do far better if they had 1,200 extra hours per year, right? Because that really requires some cognitive effort to go through all that. So anyway, one thing our HOD this year has suggested we do is actually make this available for students as well. So as and when we send feedback, which we do in an automated system, and Power Automate as well, at the same time, add it to the mentors list, the feedback, and add it to the students list. And because we use SharePoint lists, we can make permissions so that the students can only see their own feedback, the mentors can only see their own students' feedback, and that could just be like a permanent single URL that they can go to at any point to see their long-term feedback. So we're going to trial that out this year, see what students think, but yeah, and one thing I want to say is we're doing this for mentors only at the moment, because there is this issue. We're not going to have candidate numbers or anything like that, but there is this issue about anonymous marking at LSE. Theoretically, it'd probably be difficult, but you could possibly say there's a case that a marker could identify something just on the comments alone. We're still going to try. We do that for mentors anyway. We tell students they can speak to their mentors about their feedback. So, yeah, that anonymity is something to think about. Final point is just to say this is obviously very much qualitative, heavy, the stuff that I'm talking about. Even though geography we do have quant stuff. The kind of comments that gets recorded, ChatGPT could handle equations as well, but can they be done in Microsoft Word easily? Probably not. But anyway, we're going to see how this goes, but I just want to put this out there that long term, this is the kind of thing where you're giving, in an overall system where humans have the overall decision-making power and the judgment, for a lot of the legwork on the qualitative analysis, LLMs are already really, really good, and they're probably going to get better. So.
Brilliant.